Hello everyone, welcome in. My name is Sean Graves, producer and Twitch streamer and artist for PostOmnis and all things that I am interested in over at seangraves.net. Check out the website for more art that I am producing throughout life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But today I am going to be talking about amplitude modulation for you synth heads out there, beginning synth headers. As you know, we're making this series based around knowledge of what I have learned, what I am currently learning, what I'm exploring in music. And so today we're going to be talking about amplitude modulation. Prior videos, we talked about VCOs, voltage control oscillators, what those things do, and why they're important. And so we're just going to keep on continuing on through the knowledge base here today. So, amplitude modulation, shaping sound through volume. Amplitude modulation, or AM, is a fundamental concept in audio synthesis and communication. It's a way of varying the loudness, amplitude of one sound wave based on the shape of another. And this seemingly simple process can create a surprisingly rich variety of timbres, from subtle tremolo to aggressive metallic sounds. So, a brief history of amplitude modulation. While we often associate AM, or amplitude modulation, with synthesis, its roots are firmly planted in radio communication. The very first successful transmission of speech by radio achieved by Reginald Fessenden in the 1900s, using amplitude modulation. Before this, early radio relied on the on-off keying, or Morse code. But Fessenden's work paved the way for transmitting continuous audio signals. The principle was straightforward. A high-frequency carrier wave amplitude was varied in proportion to the audio signal, or the message. At the receiver, the carrier was removed and then leaving the original audio, which is pretty much what we do today still with radios. And this technology became the backbone of early radio broadcasting, and AM radio remains a common term today. So how AM is used in synthesis. In synthesis, amplitude modulation takes on a more creative role. Instead of transmitting information, it's used to sculpt the harmonic content and perceived movement of a sound. The core remains the same. One oscillator, the carrier, has its amplitude controlled by another oscillator, or the modulator. When the modulator is at an audible frequency, the results are perpetually interesting. The interaction between the carrier and the modulating frequencies creates sidebands. And these sidebands are new frequencies that weren't present in either the carrier or the modulator alone. And they appear as sums and differences of the carrier and modulator frequencies. So the carrier frequency, or FC, is the main sound source. The modulating frequency, or the FM, controls the amplitude of the carrier. And so sidebands is when, like, the frequency carrier plus the frequency modulator, and the frequency carrier is the difference of the frequency modulator. The presence and strength of these sidebands are what gives amplitude modulations its distinctive timbral qualities. Kinds of timbrels created by amplitude modulation. The timbres generated by amplitude modulation depend heavily on the frequencies of the carrier and modulator, as well as the modulation depth. How much the modulator affects the carrier amplitude modulation. So for effects like tremolo or sub-audio modulation, when the modulator is at a very low frequency, below 20 Hz, respectively, the effect is a rhythmic fluctuation in volume, known as tremolo. This adds movement and expressiveness to a sound without significantly altering the harmonic content. And these are effects that you can find in stomp pedals. Ring modulation, or high-depth audio modulation. As the modulator frequency enters the audible range above 20 Hz respectively, and the modulation depth is high, the sound takes on a more complex and often metallic characteristic. This is often referred to as ring modulation, especially when the carrier and the modulator are multiplied together, resulting in only sidebands and no original carrier frequency. Ring modulation is known for its bell-like sounds, particularly when the frequencies are harmonically related, metallic textures with inharmonic relationships creating a clangorous or industrial sound, and robotic voices, often achieved by modulating a voice with an oscillator. Harmonic richness, if the carrier and the modulator are harmonically related, for example, one is an octave or a fifth above the other, the resulting sidebands can create a richer, more complex harmonic spectrum that still sounds musical. Inharmonicity, when the carrier and modulator are inharmonically related, the sidebands will also be inharmonic, leading to dissonant, abstract, or out of tune sounds, and this is often desired for experimental sound designs. So here's some experimentation for you to try out. Change the modulating frequency. Hear how different modulating frequencies create different sidebands and thus different timbres. Try harmonic relationships, for example, modulator at an octave or a fifth above the carrier, and inharmonic relationships. Change waveforms. What happens if you use a square or a sawtooth for the carrier or the modulator? The richer the harmonic content of these waves will interact in more complex waves. And then modulation depth. Adjust the output level of the modulator for, let's say, we'll just control oscillator number 2 before it goes into the VCA CV inputs. This will control the depth of the amplitude modulation. Higher levels mean more aggressive modulation. And with this simple patch, you'll quickly discover the power and versatility of amplitude modulation in sound design. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me and learning about amplitude modulation. Don't forget to check out the new album by PostOmnis, my music project, featuring Evangel, Talia Swing, CBW, and a couple of songs, vocals by myself. It's an amazing, totally making waves out there. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring a bell notification for more videos just like this. And I hope to see you all in the next VOD. So until then, unpleasant dreams.